from the CBS Bay Area studios, this is KPIX 5 News.
It's 7:30 a.m. on this Sunday, October 8th. Good morning. I'm Melissa Caen.
And I'm Christin Ayers. Phil has today off. Let's go outside and take a look. Clear skies across the Bay Area today and warm temperatures. It will be sunny and mild as you head out the door this morning. We do have some red flag warnings in effect for the North and East Bay Hills and the Santa Cruz Mountains. Along our coastline, a beach hazard statement. Today we'll see highs around 67 degrees along the coast, mid-70s along the bay, and near 90 degrees inland. Looking ahead, expect a gradual warm up through next week. No major heat wave expected, but warmer temperatures as we head into the second week of October. And our other big story this morning, Nate is on the move. It was downgraded to a tropical storm overnight as it pounded the Gulf Coast last night. That storm is expected to continue to rapidly weaken as it moves farther inland.
And we have new details on an Amber Alert issued for a 2-year-old San Francisco girl. She is safe this morning, but her father is now in custody. Police picked up 21-year-old Javon Fortson, the girl's father, just before 10 o'clock last night. The other 2 suspects, a man and a woman, were also arrested. And police say the little girl's mother had been assaulted and was taken to the hospital. The case is being investigated by San Francisco police and the district attorney's office.
Now to the North Bay. The driver suspected of plowing his truck into a group of cyclists and driving off is now in custody. It happened along Point Reyes Petaluma Road Saturday afternoon. Witnesses say it looked like the driver intentionally swerved into the cyclists and then sped off. CHP released this picture of the suspected driver as he was arrested at his home in Novato just before midnight. One victim was flown to Santa Rosa Memorial in critical condition. The other 3 taken to Marin General Hospital. The victims were all men who were participating in the charity bike ride.
We as cyclists are just, we're your community members who happen to be riding bikes on a given day. That's it. We're just bicycle riders who are fathers and mothers and kids.
CHP credits the community for calling in tips that led to the arrest. There's no word yet on the conditions of the cyclist this morning.
A South Bay music teacher is behind bars, accused of having a sexual relationship with a teenage student. San Jose police arrested Samuel Knipe at Dartmouth Middle School on Friday. He taught music there for nearly a decade, and it's where investigators say he began a relationship 3 years ago with a 13-year-old student. Now parents are trying to make sense of the allegations.
My kids are devastated. My kids thought he was a hero.
You speak so highly of him, but what if these allegations are true?
Then, you know, you can't trust people.
Knipe is also an assistant band director at Branham High School. Police say he threatened his victim by saying he would post nude photos of the teen on the internet.
A new piece of evidence has emerged from last weekend's mass shooting in Las Vegas. It points to detailed planning by the gunman. Earlier, we learned that a handwritten note with numbers was in the hotel room of Stephen Paddock. Now, CBS News reports those numbers were actually handwritten calculations. They related to the distance and trajectory from his 32nd floor window to the crowd at a concert below. 58 people were killed 1 week ago and nearly 500 injured. Yesterday, people in Las Vegas took part in a faith unity walk. It was a step toward healing. Walkers set out from 4 locations and walked 7 miles to City Hall. They chanted, sang songs, and held up homemade signs. Then Vice President Mike Pence spoke at a ceremony.
These were everyday Americans. But every day, from this day forward, we will remember their selflessness and courage whenever we remember that dark hour.
Later in a plaza outside City Hall, 58 doves were released into the air, 1 for each of the people who died.
President Trump is expressing skepticism again about whether negotiating with North Korea will ever be effective. Yesterday, he tweeted, "Presidents and their administrations have been talking to North Korea for 25 years. Agreements and massive amounts of money paid hasn't worked. Agreements violated before the ink was dry, making fools of U.S. negotiators. Sorry, but only one thing will work." Didn't say what that one thing was. The president still has not clarified his cryptic calm before the storm comment to reporters on Thursday. At the time, he was heading into a dinner with military leaders and their spouses.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Now, it's possible that the remark is connected to an October 15th deadline for the White House to decide if Iran is in compliance with an international nuclear agreement. Mr. Trump had pledged to pull out of the deal, but now he's considering staying in, even though he says Iran is not complying. That situation would open the door for new sanctions from Congress.
Now, eyes are on the sky this weekend as Fleet Week wraps up with the air show. The highlight for most people is, of course, the Navy's Blue Angels. The precision flying team put on a show over the Bay and Golden Gate Bridge. Crowds watched the planes swirl and twirl over Crissy Field as police and the U.S. Coast Guard kept the area safe. But the fun didn't end when the show did. The bars and restaurants all along the waterfront were packed with sailors looking for a quick bite and locals looking to keep the party rolling.
Yes, tonight and tomorrow we packed completely.
There were a lot of people on BART, a lot of people on the Metro, a lot of people out in general. It's pretty lively. It's a good night.
Now, if you missed the show yesterday, it starts up again today. Gates open for the air show at 11 a.m.
Before we get to the pros, I got college football for you. If it's a Pac-12 game, you know these are going to be late ones, like last night. Stanford, though, was in attack mode at Utah. And out of this one, it was all about number 20, Bryce Love. How would he follow up a 300-yard game? How about 20 carries, 152, and this 68-yard romp as Stanford beat Utah, bumped them off 23-20. Number 6, Washington Huskies, they hosted Cal, and they were not very gracious hosts. We're looking at Jake Browning. Took it in himself from 21 yards, couple of touchdowns as they buried Cal 38-7. And the Dodgers, they did it again. Did it to the Diamondbacks 7-5 in the 7th. And Ketel Marte had the ball go right through his legs. They lost 8-5. They trail 2-0. Meantime, boy, the Nationals got 6 runs in the 8th. Ryan Zimmerman yard. They came back to beat the Cubs 6-3 to tie that series. And on the ice, Anze Kopitar, 2 goals last night. The San Jose Sharks, I know it's early, but they lost yet another. This one, a 4-1 decision. Sharks now are 0-2 in this young season. Quarterback Derek Carr, the Raiders, going to test out that back pre-game. Maybe it's a game-time decision as they take it against the Baltimore Ravens. 49ers at the Colts. Those stories and more in the afternoon. See you later.
And Whole Foods is urging customers to check their bank statements after being targeted by hackers. More than 50 stores across the nation had their data breached. Whole Foods says that the hack does not affect people who bought groceries at the store, but affects anyone who went to its restaurants or tap rooms. They may have had their credit card information compromised. The Bay Area stores affected include Walnut Creek, Dublin, Mill Valley, the San Francisco stores in Potrero Hill and in Soma, and the store on the Alameda in San Jose also affected, as well as Cupertino and the Whole Foods in Santa Clara. Several people were injured when a car plowed into a crowd in London. This morning, authorities have the driver in custody. Pedestrians grabbed the driver and pinned him down on the street as they waited for police to arrive. It happened near London's Natural History Museum yesterday. Witnesses say the man drove his car into an information kiosk on the side of the street. 11 people were treated for minor injuries in what police later called a traffic accident.
He's turned around and come straight into me. By the time I got out of the car, 3 or 4 guys had dragged him out of the car. He's on the floor, and blood came out of his head. And then the police came.
Police believe the driver may have passed out behind the wheel.
State regulators are slapping BART with a new 6-figure fine for safety lapses that led to the deaths of 2 workers. A train being operated by a trainee struck and killed 2 men in October of 2013. The victims were inspecting a dip in the tracks near the Walnut Creek station. Now, the state PUC is fining BART nearly $220,000, and it calls the violations serious and egregious. For example, a supervisor on the train was not in the cabin and used his cell phone multiple times.
And the daily commute could look different in Contra Costa next week thanks to new express lanes. They'll be open starting tomorrow along 680 from Walnut Creek to San Ramon. Solo drivers with Fast Track can pay a toll to use them. The price is going to depend on traffic and demand. Carpoolers, motorcyclists, and drivers with clean air vehicles can use the express lanes for free if they have Fast Track Flex. Meanwhile, BART riders won't get to use that new fleet of the future until Thanksgiving. BART is delaying the release of the redesigned trained cars because it's still working out some technical problems, including trouble with the friction brakes and the air conditioning. The new cars were originally set to debut last month.